What's going on, YouTube? This is episode 5 or 6. I can't remember. We're just getting it done. The contest prep is in full swing, and I'm going to start with 7 things that I've noticed thus far in the contest prep. First one is I've all of a sudden become extremely introspective. My internal dialogue has gone off the Richter charts, and I constantly find myself talking to myself, almost as if there's that little voice just chattering away about my experiences day to day and the world around me. Really interesting. It's something I did notice in previous contest preps, but I think any competitor will tell you that when they diet and as they get leaner and leaner, they just become more in tune with obviously their body, but also their thoughts, feelings, and everything else in between. Something else I've started to notice is that my joints are just feeling a little bit funky. Some clicking in my shoulder, my knees, nothing painful, but less fat means that there's less between the joint and the bone, and things are just feeling a little funky, especially things overhead, abduction, side raises, those kind of things. They're just feeling a little bit off, and it's harder to find the right position in some of those movements, and it's just a little bit distracting. Another thing with the loss of body fat as we get leaner is we start to notice those asymmetries. Definitely starting to be more aware of those little imbalances I have, weaknesses, just the development of certain muscles that we don't see when we have more layers covering the lean mass. And yeah, that's been a little bit of an influence in when I sat down to write my program, I guess, because I did opt for more unilateral work, I guess, to really hone in on my ability to make sure that I'm getting sufficient work done and there's no compensation in those bilateral movements. So yeah, that's another one. I'm also starting to become a master chef. The food prep and the presentation of my meals is something that I've also started to really prioritize. Very interesting, very weird, but I guess it comes with the territory of dieting. We just want to make our food, or the little food that we have, look and taste all the more better when we do get to have it. So yeah, they call me Jamie Oliver. Motivation to train. Yeah, I could sit here and bitch and moan, but I just haven't been motivated to train. Again, is this an influencing factor in me dropping from 5 to 4 sessions, which we'll discuss shortly? Maybe, but yeah, when I get to the gym, it's like dragging myself there to do it, so to speak, as opposed to getting up and wanting to attack the iron, and that comes with just less energy available, a little bit of lethargy, all the rest of it. But caffeine pre-workout has been a staple now, and more so for the placebo effect of, oh, I've had my caffeine now, it's time to get to work. 6th thing, I actually felt full last week. After we increased the calories and had obviously higher low days and then some pretty big high days, 3 days with 475 grams of carbs, I was actually full. Saturday night, I was eating a pizza and I didn't want to finish it because I was stuffed. Didn't want to look at it, so I actually saved some of the pizza for the following day. That never happens. Really good sign that the hunger and the hormones are still functioning properly, and that we're not in a position where those kind of things are becoming an issue, especially this early on in the prep. My drive to get jiggy with it has been down. It was up until Berto increased my food that I just, I was still rising with the sun. We're going to talk about that soon, but I just didn't have the energy to do it. But some more food and voila. Let's get into my updated training program. I'll run you through the spreadsheet for that and discuss the changes I've made and why. Then we'll review the week just gone in terms of the diet, the cardio, weight changes, physique updates, all those kind of things. And hopefully you guys are finding these useful. If you are, make sure you like it, because otherwise it's not going to be very motivating each week if I only have a handful of people liking it and engaging. So yeah. Alrighty folks, here is the next training cycle. And as I mentioned, we are down to 4 days a week, upper, lower split. And the reason for this is when we're training in a calorie deficit, the goal is muscle retention. We're not going to be building any muscle, especially not me, certainly. So the goal is to just keep the tissue around. And the 5 sessions a week was probably running me into a little bit more fatigue than I would have liked, and the quality of training was definitely dropping off just due to the fact that I had to be in the gym more regularly and yeah, obviously manage fatigue a little more diligently. Whereas, dropping to 4 sessions a week, I can now train a little harder. The quality of these sessions is definitely going to improve due to that. And there's some noticeable changes here. And let's first discuss my recent back injury. You will have seen me doing some prehab and rehab work there. I just, sprained a facet squatting a couple of weeks back. Probably not having my deload early enough. I went 5 weeks into the cycle before deloading. It probably should have been a deload on the 5th week. And I probably underestimated how quickly the drop in body weight and calories was going to affect my recovery as well as my leverages. So we live and we learn. It's not a big issue, but there has to be a few changes made to this cycle so that we can obviously recover the lower back and get on with things. And let's say with things from day one, so moving into an upper lower split now, we've got some top sets and back offsets in the mix now. So obviously when we try to retain muscle, volume is the primary driver of hypertrophy, right? We all know that. But people often forget about intensity, so it becomes a little bit of a balancing act. And when we're dieting, especially as we get peeled below our settling point, it becomes time to start utilizing different techniques in the way that we set up our rep, set, and load schemes to account for that and to make sure that we're both getting intensity on the bar, on the muscles, as well as getting sufficient volume, because we do need that mechanical tension to drive protein synthesis and hopefully keep things around. So top sets and back offsets at this stage for the low incline dumbbell press. 2 top sets at the moment. Got some rep ranges, again, just because things are going to be a little more difficult to prescribe week to week with changes in calorie intake, body weights, all those things. So we've just got some ranges. We'll work within that. Then we've got 2 back offsets. I dare say that moving forward into the next cycle, it'll be 1 top set with 3 back offsets. Again, we'll try to push this a little bit harder while I have a higher calorie intake throughout the rest of February, and then we'll reassess when things get brought down in the next cycle. A few little changes. We've got the half-kneeling dumbbell overhead press. Call me Functional Jacob. We've got this one in here because I just need a little bit more anterior core stability, and obviously, I can't be doing the overhead press with a barbell, standing, or even seated. I was just finding myself in extension too much and overactivating my erectors, not keeping the core engaged enough. But this one really brings attention to that, and it can play a massive role in keeping the lower back healthy while still pushing overhead. Not a lot of changes to that day. Squats, again, we've got 2 top sets. Load is going to be climbing, but we're going to be very, very careful with how we progress things here. I'll be looking to maybe add a rep or 2 as a priority instead of pushing the load too quickly, and then back offsets. Quite a significant reduction, around 15% below what the top set is. And the trap bar is in. We have some trap bar deadlifts there. They are going to be with a very hip dominant stance, so we're not going to be super upright when we're performing these. And on this session here, there's going to be an eccentric. I just haven't noted that down because I was writing the program Sunday night at midnight. Single leg press. Again, we're just, as you can tell, we're moving away from movements that put a lot of compressive force on the spine, opting more for unilateral work and machines isolation work, because it's just going to help me recover a little bit quicker and get this back sorted so that I can get straight into things in the next cycle. Wide grip pull-ups in the mix now. Incline dumbbell press, again, I mentioned how I was going to be utilizing more dumbbells and unilateral work due to noticing some asymmetries and stuff. Probably more putting my mind at ease than anything, but yeah, that's how it goes. And then on the fourth day, we have some heavier trap bar deadlifts. These ones will be slightly more upright than the previous session, and we're going to be pushing load a little bit more on these. And I want to be getting up to around the, I get dare say 190, 200 mark, come 8 weeks time. So I really want to keep this one around for as long as possible. Hack squat instead of squats now. Got some good mornings in there, nice and light, just because I do need to keep some form of stimulus on the lower back to keep that Christmas tree around. And then again, lunges, hamstring curls, yes. So quite a modest training program, but I want the quality to be really high and ensure that we're still progressing in the gym on more food, and that we're keeping the tissue around and both addressing the need for intensity and volume, but ensuring that the big one that everyone forgets is the effort, the RPE. How hard we're training. It needs to obviously take into consideration, the deficit, lighter body weight, all those things, but it needs to be sufficient because if we don't use it, we lose it. So that's it, guys. Hope that was helpful. Now we'll look at the week just gone and where the body weight's sitting and the diet and the cardio. Alright guys, so here we are. This is the week just gone. Weekly average was 80.8 last week. The weekly average for the week just gone was 80.2, so a pretty big drop despite the increase in calories. And instead of pushing for the fat loss now, we're going to let it come to us. And I guess something really important here is we don't always need to be chipping away at the calories, like I spoke about in my previous vlog, in terms of the dynamic nature of the contest prep. Something really interesting that I mentioned previously was my drive to get jiggy with it has been down, although it's picked right back up with the increase in calories. And an important note that Berto made was the drive to do it versus rising with the morning sun are two completely different things. And obviously without blood work, it's very hard to determine changes in hormonal health. And obviously we're speaking about testosterone here. But if we start to lose the morning wood, so to speak, it's a pretty good proxy that things are taking a hit and it's time for a diet break. So I guess that's really important for any of you competitors out there or coaches. Keep an eye on how things are going downstairs, and it can really tell you where your competitors are at, and obviously what your hormones are doing in the absence of having some formal blood work done. But as you can see here, I got all of my cardio in. Upper and lower split went really well. This was a deload week, and yeah, I hit a new low of 79.9. I haven't hit under that since my last contest prep. So really good week. I'm starting to take shape nicely, filling up a little bit now, but I look significantly leaner as the week goes on, despite the increase in carbohydrates. There was no real changes in my weigh-ins, so things are trending really, really well. I say that every week, but what do you want me to say? It's been smooth sailing. We've seen pretty consistent drops. The physique changes are noticeable. Things are really taking shape now, and it's going to be a few more weeks before we start digging again. But guys, I'll leave it there. Like the video, comment below with any questions, and I'll speak to you all next time.